Hello guys, this is NCAA Uncovered here, back with another video, and today I'm gonna be covering my top 25 teams in college football going in to week 9. Is it now? Wow. The season's almost done, but anyways, so to 25 here, my team is Washington State. I don't really feel like there's anybody past the 24 spot that really deserves to be ranked, but out of all the teams I looked at, which include Vanderbilt. Um, Nebraska just got destroyed by IU, so obviously they're not gonna be on here. Um, Arkansas, just like all those teams. This is the best team, I think. So far they're 6-1 and first in the Pac-12. Their only loss was on the road by 21 against Boise State, which Boise State I think I have up somewhere in the teens. Uh, so I think this team's actually pretty good. But I just don't know if they still deserve to be ranked. But there's just no one else because Michigan is a loss, so obviously they're not going to be up here that deserves to be ranked. So going on now, Navy midshipmen, they're undefeated. They're second in the American behind Army right now. Um, and well, I mean, obviously they've not lost a game. They're 6-0. Don't have any quality wins. Um, which really don't. I mean, they beat Memphis 56-44. Maybe that's the most quality win. But not really. However, next week they're actually playing at home against Notre Dame. So that will be a very good matchup. I'm probably like Notre Dame is 91% somehow, according to like this ESPN analytics. But I think this really could be a close game, especially since it's at Navy, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, we'll just have to see. Uh, 10:26 is at 12 p.m. So make sure to turn into that next week. 23rd now, Army Black Knights. Which I think Army and Navy are pretty equal. I think Army's just, especially according to the poll, they're just a little bit ahead. So I'll just put them at 23rd and put Navy at 24th. They beat East Carolina last week, 45-28. Definitely a team that runs the ball a lot. Their QB, Bryson Daly, has 629 passing yards and 909 rushing yards. So there's the team that scrambles a lot, which I kind of respect that. But having like 300 more um, rushing yards and passing yards for a QB through 7 games is kind of crazy. Um, they haven't really beat anybody to beat FAU in the road by 17. That's a nice win. They also beat Temple and Tulsa on the road, even though those two teams are good by 28 and 42 respectively. So like Navy, they haven't played anybody, but we'll still just have to see how the season plays out because it could go good for them. Pitt is the next team, and this is another team that they have not played anybody, but they have looked. I mean, they're undefeated now. They have looked good in the teams they have played. Um, I mean, they beat North Carolina, even though North Carolina kind of sucks this year, right? They beat them by 10, beat West Virginia by 4. So they have been destroying teams. Only beat Cal by 2. But North Carolina was on the road, and then they beat Cincinnati, which actually might be the best win the whole season on the road by 1. They play Syracuse next week. They do have a decent schedule ahead of them. They play um, SMU on the road as well as Louisville on the road, and then play Clemson at home and Boston College on the road. So they definitely got a schedule ahead of them, and as well as Syracuse at home next week. So I mean, this team could very easily drop in the rankings pretty quickly just because they have such a tough schedule ahead of them. But let's wait and see. 21 here is Illinois. They took down Michigan, who Michigan just has looked horrible the last few games. Like USC, they kind of collapsed. Um, but Illinois, 6-1 now. They beat Michigan 21-7 at home last week, which is a solid win. Their defense definitely showed up in that game, but it did not show up in that Purdue game. Generally I'm a Purdue fan, but I thought they were going to win that game. I was watching that. That was really exciting. Purdue sucks though, so to only win by 1 point at home in overtime and give up 49 points against a Purdue offense that, I mean, they got shut out 35-0 this week against Oregon. Like, their offense has looked horrible the whole that season. Um, I don't know what that says about their defense, but definitely doesn't look good. They were up 24-3 at halftime. They got outscored 17-3 in the third and 23-16 in the fourth. And then in overtime, Purdue didn't convert that 2-point conversion, so Illinois won. But I still Illinois. I mean, their only loss this whole season was on the road at Penn State, 21-7. So I think they definitely look like a pretty good team that could make a run. Their next few games are at Oregon next week. Then they don't have anybody else ranked for the whole season. They got Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers, and Northwestern. The back two being on the road, the front two being at home. Um, Next up, we got Boise State Broncos. Um, which I'm looking at last week, week 8, because I'm actually recording this before the rankings even got out for week 9. But Boise State is 15th, so I kind of upset in the back a bit. Just because like they haven't beaten anybody. I know they only lost by 3 at Oregon on the road, which is actually pretty impressive. But Oregon wasn't playing good at the beginning of the season, so I don't know what you want me to say. They beat Washington State by 21, which is decently impressive, I guess, since I did have Washington State um, ranked. But still, I don't know. It's hard to put teams high when they haven't played anybody. Um, Maybe I could have put them a little higher, but I just don't know. Their quarterback, Maddox Madsen, good name. 1,273 passing yards. Rushing yards, Ashton Jeanty, so 1,248. So they're very equal in pass rush. I mean, they're a strong team. They got a really good offense, explosive offense. But against good teams, I feel like their defense might not be as strong. Honestly, I could see them not losing another game the rest of the year. The only team that they probably could lose to is at UNLV, which is next week. But UNLV lost their quarterback because the NIL dispute, and ever since then, they just haven't been that good. Next up now, we got Ole Miss Rebels. I know. Ole Miss kind of half collapsed a bit. Um, Started off so good. They were like first in so many categories. When I last recorded this week 5, I think I had them at 5th in the nation or something, and I kind of felt like that was kind of being rude to them. Um, but since um, their 5th game of the season, which they lost to Kentucky 2017, they beat South Carolina on the road by 24. That's a good win. But then they came back and lost to LSU. So it's like, I mean, 2 losses at this point. It's just tough. In the SEC, they're not. I mean, they don't got really tough schedule. They only have one more ranked opponent. That's Georgia. So I can't see much of a chance with them beating Georgia, especially since Georgia just beat Texas. Although the SEC is crazy, so anything can happen. But Jackson Dart, he just has. I mean, I don't know. I just don't love this guy as a QB. He puts up big like passing numbers, but I mean, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, 70.2 completion percentage. I mean, I don't know if he's much as a problem as much as a rushing game. Henry Parrish Jr. 612 yards on the ground. That's their leading rusher. Um, so it's just they put up a decent amount of points each week, but um, lately I guess their defense has been more the problem, as well as their mediocre offense more lately. One of the real reasons their stats are so good is because they had like 4 baby bottle games to start off the season. Anyways, next up is Kansas State Wildcats. Kansas State's only lost the season, obviously, against BYU, who I think BYU is really good. They're still undefeated. I think BYU is actually like, kind of did this in basketball last year where they're just really good because they hadn't played anybody. But they've played okay teams this season. Like I think they only played one ranked team, Kansas State, and they beat them by 38-9. But anyways, we're not talking about BYU. We're talking about Kansas State. And Kansas State, I mean, they beat Colorado on the road by 3, beat West Virginia on the road by 27, which West Virginia has played competitively with some good teams this season. I mean, yeah, like their only ranked team they play this season that's still ranked is BYU, which they lost by 29, even though I'm pretty sure they had more offensive yards. They just had a tough stretch where they threw like a few picks, sixes and stuff, I think. They don't play another ranked team all season until the last week at Iowa State, so that'll be a good game. Not much more to say. Avery Johnson, he's looking decent this season. I believe, except for the picks, he has 5 picks, but he still has 1,401 yards, 62.4 completion percentage, and their rushing game, 1,560 yards rushing this season to 1,437 passing. So they're more of a rushing team. I think Avery Johnson, if he can just, I mean, 1 pick a game isn't bad, but if he can just not throw any picks, they'll be a pretty good team. Um, Next up on my list, I got SMU Mustangs. I think SMU is actually kind of a sleeper team. Um, sorry. Their only loss all season was against BYU. By 3, which BYU, I'm telling you, is a good team. Uh, which actually that's another team BYU play that's ranked. SMU, even though I don't think they were ranked at the time. Um, but since then, I mean, they've just beaten teams, right? They beat Florida State by 26. Obviously, Florida State has turned out to suck. They beat TCU 66-42 with an explosive offense against TCU's explosive offense. Beat Louisville on the road. Beat Stanford on the road by 30. Um, just looking solid so far this season. I mean, not a whole lot to say. Except I think this team could definitely try to do something good. Kevin Jennings has 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. Their rushing game, once again, I mean, passing wise, they have 1,682 yards. Rushing, they have 1,397. So they're a little bigger passing, even though that's expected from a team. Moving on now, we got IU. Man, I did not expect that last week. I just don't know. Maybe I should have put them higher, but I just couldn't see them over these other teams because they haven't played anyone rather than Nebraska, I guess you could say. But I mean, they crushed Nebraska 56-7. Um, they don't play another ranked team, assuming Michigan won't be ranked, which is pretty much a guarantee. Until at Ohio State, which is the 14th team in the nation. So they could really only lose one game this whole entire season, most likely. Assuming they can beat Michigan at home. So that could put them in the playoffs, honestly, for IU, even though they want to have a ranked win. But they could honestly make the Big Ten championship. I think it's gonna be right now. I think it's Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, and honestly them because they're still undefeated in Big Ten play. Curtis Rauch has looked incredible this season. 15 touchdowns, 3 picks, 1,941 yards, and 74.6% completion percentage. But he is out next week against Washington, so Washington possibly could upset them. Although I think they'll still get the job done. 15th, Missouri. Oops, I did not mean to keep that in the corner. Sorry about that. I was making this off the one I made before. That was week 5 ranking, so don't look at that. But anyways, Missouri. They they've beaten teams, all right. Like I just don't know what to say. I don't believe a lot in this team. They beat Auburn barely last week. Auburn's like 2-5. They lost their only ranked team, the current ranked team on the season at Texas A&M by 31. I think this team has potential, right? I don't have Brady Cooks playing. Just watching him against Auburn, he just didn't look great. But still, he only one pick this season and 7 touchdowns and 1,545 yards. So his stats still look decent. They have 1,751 yards, passing 1,206 yards, rushing this season. So it's definitely more of a passing threat. I think it really just comes down kind of their defense. We saw because their offense is pretty good. Like generally, they scored 51, 38, 27, 30, 10, 45, 21. That's pretty good. But if their defense against good teams can hold up, then I mean that's going to be the story. But they do play at Alabama next week. Another really tough matchup for Alabama. So we'll have to see how that goes. Alabama keep on losing. I mean, here I'm gonna research this really quick. Toughest strength of schedules. FBS and 24 strength of schedule for all under 30 for FBS according to College Football Network. Um, Purdue is number 1. What did I say? I mean, I don't like all that, but like I'm a Purdue fan, and I keep thinking their schedule is so tough, and they have the toughest strength of schedule. That's remaining strength of schedule, actually. Then Florida, then Washington, then Maryland, then okay, maybe Alabama's not because they've already played a lot of tough teams, so they're not on here because this is remaining. That's my bad. Pittsburgh's actually 25th in the rating, even though they played nobody so far. Um, okay, I'm gonna sorry, 2024-25 complete season. I'm gonna see because I think Alabama might be up there. Like, just looking at, I mean, if you look at who they played this season, it is brutal. Like they have played. I can't find it. Sorry. But anyways, we're just gonna move on now. I think Texas A&M in the SEC, they're actually playing pretty good. They're winning the SEC right now, but they had not played anybody that good. Their only good team really is against Texas, and they also play LSU. Both at home though, so they could probably take LSU, maybe even Texas. If they did that, I mean, they could be the number one team in the nation caliber. But I think they're still far from that. Number 12, Notre Dame, the team they played week 1. Notre Dame, rather than that Northern Illinois game, people thought Northern Illinois might be good because they beat Notre Dame. They're not. It's really that Notre Dame just played horrible, right? But that's just one game, right? That was just, I don't know, like it's a bad game. Uh, they play Navy next week, like I was talking about earlier, and they also play Army because they got. I think Notre Dame always says that, but Notre Dame obviously a heavy ACC schedule, even though they're independent. Because they're ACC in basketball, I'm pretty sure. Uh, so I mean, not a whole lot to say. Uh, Riley Leonard, he only has 6 passing touchdowns. He's a lot more of a runner. If I recall, I talked about this a lot bit last video. Yes, he only ran for about 456 yards this season, but he's ran for 10 touchdowns and only thrown 6 touchdowns. But he's also only thrown 3 picks, which is pretty good. So I think Notre Dame's just gotta get their passing game up a bit. Only 1,323 yards through everybody combined this season in the air. So number 11, Iowa State Cyclones, holding on for dear life last week. That was kind of crazy. I'm against UCF, or yesterday I could say, because it really was yesterday night when I watched it. But I don't know when you're watching this, so. UCF, yeah, 38-35, barely got that dub. At West Virginia, won by 12, but they just haven't lost a game all season, which really is just something to say. So, and they've actually played a ranked team, which they're not right anymore, but they played at Iowa, which they won by 1, but still, let's see from Iowa State. Don't play a ranked team until last week, Kansas State, at home. Rocco Becht for Iowa State. He's their starting QB. He has 1,712 passing yards this season, as well as 11 touchdowns, 5 picks, which isn't the best, but once again, through 7 games, it's not even that horrible. And then, yeah, running wise, they have 1,302 yards running on the season, with Carson Hansen as their leading rusher. Clemson, rather than that 34-3 loss week 1 to Georgia at home, which, yeah, they've looked like one of the best teams in the nation. I mean, since then they're 6-0. They've just beaten teams. I mean, they haven't played anybody that well, but they're just playing a lot better. And I think Georgia was kind of like a wake up call for them, right? Their offense couldn't get anything done against Georgia. Klubnik, he only threw for 142 yards, as well as the pick. So definitely not what he went for that game. But since then, I mean, I play a lot of college football 25, and he won back-to-back Heisman's, and there's a reason why. Like he is pretty good. I mean, 20 touchdowns this season, only 3 picks, 1,836 yards passing. Like that's Heisman caliber numbers right there, right? 9 BYU Cougars. Yes, I'm putting BYU in the top 10. I mean, they are undefeated and they have beaten Kansas State by 29. Like, right? Like 7-0. I mean, there's just not a lot of flaws in this team so far. I mean, Oklahoma State only beat by 3 at home. I guess that's a flaw last week because Oklahoma State's been playing horrible, but they still won, right? I know Oklahoma State's still a team with a lot of potential. Let's get fully healthy and stuff. And yeah, I mean, they beat Arizona by 22, and then they beat Baylor by 6 in the road, which is Baylor isn't the best, but I mean, they just look like a solid football team so far this season. And their defense and offense have both been productive enough to get them wins week after week, and they're 7-0 so far in the Big 12, which is obviously first. 1,096 rushing yards, 1,704 passing yards as a team this season. And I mean, they just look great. Number 8 is LSU. They have definitely shown up. I did not think they were gonna have a good season, I'll admit, in my last video, because they lost to USC, which USC now sucks, but they're 3-4. I don't know what happened. They just collapsed once Big Ten play really started. Um, but they beat Ole Miss by 3 at home. They beat South Carolina by 3 on the road, which South Carolina has proven to be a team that can dismantle a decent team sometimes, as well as be dismantled. But and then they beat Arkansas on the road by 24, which Arkansas beat Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee did play bad and Arkansas played good, but still, it's still an impressive win. This team has been playing a lot better. They really picked it up this season, and I think they can be a threat in the SEC. And I mean, they play at Texas A&M next week, then versus Alabama, and then they got at Florida versus Vanderbilt and versus Oklahoma to finish off the season. So I think if they could take, I mean, they could very well take both Texas A&M and Alabama and then win out. Like, this is a team that I think will definitely make the college football playoffs, honestly, at this point, if they can just only lose one more game or less the rest of the season. Maybe even 2 losses. Tennessee Volunteers next up. They just beat Alabama, which Alabama's obviously not playing well. But still, they started off the season, I had them ranked 4th last time. Then they lost to Arkansas on the road by 5, which Arkansas, I just was talking about. Um, Arkansas played really good. Tennessee played horrible. It's kind of like Notre Dame. It's kind of just a screw up, but for really top teams, that's kind of unacceptable. But especially since it's more recent, and more middle season. But they beat Alabama at home. I mean, they've been playing 4 straight home games. They played Florida, they won, versus Alabama, they won. Then they played Kentucky and Mississippi State for the next 2 games. So they're looking in good shape. Then they go on the road against Georgia. That's gonna be a tough game. And then they play UTEP and then at Vanderbilt. So hopefully they can take care of Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt's actually been looking decent. And then at Georgia, that'll be a good game. Once again, there's so many good games this season in the SEC. Texas Longhorns did not look the best last night. Not gonna lie, they kind of looked overmatched against Georgia, even though they were the number 1 team in the nation going into it and at home. Quinn Ewers did not show up very well. The first half was just so unproductive in offense, and I mean, Texas has gotta look better, right? Uh, they put in Arch Manning towards the end actually, which is kind of crazy because um, they're only down 15, but Quinn Ewers 25 for 43, 4.9 yards of reception, not very good. It's horrible actually. 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw a pick, 23.9 QB rating. Arch Manning 3 for 6, 19 yards, 3.2 average with a 14.8 QB rating. I think they should start Ewers honestly. I think he's a junior right now. Yes, he's a junior right now. But he could very well declare for the NFL draft next season. I could see that. I mean, so far this season, he has 1,101 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. So not the best, but still probably could get a late round draft pick just because he's Texas QB. So I just think Texas got to play better. Like they got to jump on teams like Georgia early. They got down like 23-0 at halftime. Then went on a 15-0 run. They gave up a touchdown, and then just kind of got quiet after that in the 4th quarter. They don't play another ranked team until last week against at Texas A&M though, so we'll see. Miami, kind of like BYU, they just haven't lost yet, right? And I think Miami's kind of more of a powerhouse that, and they started off ranked higher. That I think I just get more trust myself to rank them top 5 in the nation. Cause yeah, I mean 7-0 is an impressive record. Like really, no matter who you play, like it is just impressive. And they have not played a ranked team. Excuse me, all season. They played at Louisville this week, which they won 52-45. They haven't been destroying teams. I mean, they beat Ball State 62-0, but once again, Ball State sucks. I mean, they played a lot of close games. The last 3 weeks, versus Virginia Tech, 38-34, at California, and then at Louisville, 39-38, 52-45. So their last 3 games have been within 7 points each. Two of them within 4 points. So they're playing close games, but they're winning them. That's all we really got to do at the end of the day. Um, they're 7-0, 3-0 in the ACC. But Clemson is 5-0 in the ACC. So we'll see. Penn State and Nittany Lions next up. I did not believe in this team at all. I'm not sure still how much I believe in them, but they still are undefeated. So I gotta give them a lot of credit for that. 6-0, but like they only beat USC on the road by 3, like 2 weeks ago. And then they only beat UCLA by 16, and then they beat Illinois by 14, which is decent but not the best. Beat Bowling Green by 7, which I guess Notre Dame only beat them by 6. But there's moments where this team can look shaky, but they're still ranked third in the nation as of last week's poll. So it has updated it for me, and I mean they didn't play. They had a bye week, so they could go back a bit. As Georgia will move up, but Texas might move back, so they could stay around where they are. Rushing wise, they have 1,207 yards, 1,620 passing. Drew Alar, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks, pretty solid. Moving on now, we got Ohio State Buckeyes lost to Oregon, but spoiler alert, yeah, Oregon number 1 in the nation. So, I mean, it's a road loss by 1 against the best team in the nation, at least according to me, because I mean, I just can't put it in Georgia. Anyways, I don't think they actually really dropped that much. They've still looked really dominant against, like, they beat Iowa by 25, beat Michigan by 30, Michigan State by 31 on the road, and then they just looked dominant all their games. And then they lost a really close game at Oregon, um, on the road. Like that's acceptable, right? Like that stuff happens. You just gotta live through it. They were down 21-22 at halftime, 7-0 in the third, then 10-3 in the fourth, lose 32-31. So that stuff just happens. Number 2 team Georgia, like I was saying, they lost to Alabama. That's when Alabama was playing great. That was a really crazy game. The fact that they came back was impressive. And since the Alabama game, they beat Auburn by 18, Mississippi State by 10. Which Mississippi State keeps playing close games, I feel like, at least the last few games. Even though if you like Mississippi State on the season now is 1-6. They only went against Eastern Kentucky by 49, but like I mean they lost on the road at Texas by 22, then they lost on the road at Georgia by 10, then Texas A&M by 10. Like they're not as bad as some people think, even though they did lose to Toledo by 24. I don't know how that happened, but so Georgia uh, beat Texas on the road by 15. That is probably the most impressive win, maybe of the season. Yeah, I'd say that's the most impressive win of the season, honestly, for any team. This so far. So they lost, yeah, on the road at Alabama by 7, but still, I think they got Tennessee on the road and Ole Miss. I mean, Tennessee at home, Ole Miss on the road coming up. So we'll have to see how that goes. But going on, number 1 team in the nation, Oregon Ducks. Oh, sorry, one more thing about actually Georgia. I was looking. Carson Beck somehow threw a bunch of picks. I didn't ever watch the very beginning of the Texas Georgia game. Yeah, Carson Beck threw 3 picks, 175 yards, 23 for 41. He had a bad game, and they somehow still uh won 30-15, right? And I mean Etienne though he had 87 yards, 19 carries, and 3 touchdowns. That's really kind of what carried them. Travis Etienne, um, brother Trevor Etienne. So also, do you see that call? I'm gonna make a video about that. Like that call of Texas, Georgia was horrible. That pick call, like they called it pass interference. And then the fans started throwing like stuff in the field, so they overturned it. That was horrible. Like I mean, like he didn't even push off of it. It was almost looked more like offensive pass interference than defense. So, but they overturned it after people started throwing stuff in the field. So number 1, like I said, Oregon. Uh, they I'd say the second most impressive win of the season is probably the Ohio State win, just because Ohio State's still third in my rankings. But yeah, they beat Purdue in the road by 35. Purdue obviously kind of sucks. Once again, I'm a Purdue fan. Um, I admit it. They beat Boise State at home by 3. Boise State's ranked 20th, I think, in my thing. Okay, yes, I do have Boise State ranked 20th. Here going on now. Yeah, Oregon. So there's a sec here. Look at some statistics just to show. I mean, this team's really stepped up the last few weeks, right? Dylan Gabriel, 2,080 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 picks. Pretty solid. I had him as a Heisman contender. Not sure if he's the favorite right now with 4 picks, but that's still really good statistics. 77% completion percentage, 9.2 average, which isn't the best, but still pretty good. Jordan James, 717 yards on the ground. They have 1,108 as a team. Um, so they're they're definitely more a passing threat, but they still can run the ball if they need to. As in their defenses look solid. I mean, they shut out Purdue. Purdue's offense obviously can't do much, but um, I just they've won all their games, right? Like that's really what it comes down to, and that's what they have. So for the SEC looking so dominant now, the Big Ten actually has what 3 of the top 4 teams. So the SEC only has 2 of the top, 1 of the top 5. So yeah. Um. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video. I hope I'm gonna post more content like this. I'm gonna do one of these next week if this video gets some views. Thanks for watching, guys, and